The Oregon boys. No, I can see. I just ended up walking in. I asked I think my options are going to be either walk down the stairs in front of me to the field and then walk up the top. Yeah. What's it called? The tunnel. That should be able to get right out. Right around the buses thing. Will that take me on the other side? Will it take me on the other side of the barricade?
Yes.
Okay.
Now I'm ready.
Or the other option is just do what I did, but see what I did was
One last copy. Everybody good?
South what? No, I have to sit on the east side.
Oh, you said on the east side. I thought you were on the west side.
Well, I started off on the west side because it was just too damn hot on the east side. So we bought tickets at some seat seats and then we went and sat in our seats. So I decided that, that basically if I bought some seats, then my wife buys some seats on seat B would be like going on to the. So I made $150 investment in positive energy as opposed to bitching about how hot it was. Okay? Which it was hot. But so rather than be miserable, then I elected to invest.
It's great to see everybody. We're excited about another home game. It's going to be great playing at Jones AT&T. I will tell you, we were actually talking about it out in the hallway. I thought Saturday, in my short career here and being in some big games last year, playing the University of Texas at home, I thought Saturday was the best environment that I've ever been in. I've had the opportunity as a fan to go when I was a high school coach. I've gone to Ole Miss, Alabama game to watch some of my players and stuff like that. Man, I'm telling you, the Saturday's atmosphere was incredible. Can't thank our fans enough. Our players have been talking about it, just the energy that they felt, and man, I thank our fans and just want them to understand we need them again. It's a big. We truly have a home field advantage here, and so it's a big deal that they're here on Saturday. I usually know a lot of coaches on the coaches staff that we play. I'm not very familiar with a lot of the guys at Tarleton State. I've met Coach Witten a couple times, the winningest coach at Tarleton State. He's done a phenomenal job. They're really hot right now on offense. He's an offensive mind. And it's called it at different times. He's got a new offensive coordinator that's calling it. But it's going to be, they've scored 50 points their first two games. They're 2-0. Going to have a lot of confidence, coming in. And so it's going to be an exciting game. I felt really good about the team yesterday coming in and getting their lift and practice. I feel like we're going to have a great preparation during the week of getting ready for Tarleton State. I was proud of the way the guys came in. It's going 0-2, and the expectations. Sometimes teams come in and they're hanging their head and they can feel sorry, or we can feel sorry for ourselves. And this is not the time to feel sorry for ourselves. This is the time to correct the things that we can control, that we can correct, and get a win. And so we're excited about that. And man, I'm just glad we are playing at home again. So with that, I'll open up for any questions.
Start with here on the third row.
Coach, seemed like a couple of important players were out. Do you have any injury updates for us?
Jacob Rodriguez is still, it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks with him. Trying to think. I was really proud. I mean, you're talking about a redshirt freshman starting his very first game. Ben Roberts, I thought, played a great game. I'm really excited about him because you start looking at what he's going to do this year, but being that young and playing as well as he did. I'm trying to think of who else. Isaac's surgery went great. He was in doing his rehab this morning. He'll be out. But trying to think if we get anybody back this week. Dennis Wilburn, he was a game time decision. He wasn't ready to go. He'll be back this week. He practiced yesterday. That's always good. I thought Jacoby did a really good job, but it's always good to have, a vet, guy that's played as many games as he has, back. And then, as far as the game goes, we didn't have anybody go out that we don't expect to have. I think Tyler Owens had a little quad strain. He'll be more. We'll see how the week goes. But he looked good this morning. Ty Mathis had a hamstring injury. It was going to be really tough for him to that happened later in the week, so it was going to be tough. He ran this morning. So we're hoping, by Wednesday we have him back. That'll give us some more depth at linebacker. But we felt really good. Josiah's had 2 good weeks, and, man, it was fun to see Ben the way he played. And so they'll be our 2 inside linebackers that start, and, we'll have really good weeks.
Yeah, I know you get asked about the quarterback a lot, but has there been any thought to take a look at Baron Morton, maybe divvy up the snaps at all, given the start and all the turnovers last week, or not?
No, we were talking about that earlier. It's the easiest thing to do as an observer is to follow the ball and watch the ball. What we don't see is what went on everything. And unless you're studying the film or you're going back and looking exactly what happened. I always say, there are points that, Tyler said it on Saturday night, the interception after the block punt. He's going to take full credit, and responsibility for that, ball should have been thrown different. But I think every time you go through stuff, there are always other factors involved. And some of the factors that are involved are whether it be an O-lineman, whether it be a tight end, whether it be a call by the coach that puts a player in a bad situation, and then you go back and you blame it on that one guy. The one thing that I've always told my quarterbacks, I told Gino this after the Wyoming game, you will always get the blame or the credit as the head coach or the starting quarterback. And you got to understand that is the position you're in. We have the biggest targets, the easiest targets, and I totally get that. I'm 100% all in on that, and I know Tyler is too, because he's definitely a pro. But I do not think that we are losing the football games at the quarterback position. I know there's a lot of people that would disagree with that, and hey, man, I get it and totally understand it. But when you do that, go back and it's easy. You recorded the game. I rewatched the TV copy. The great thing about technology today, you can slow a lot of stuff down, see where the pressure came from, and see what kind of technique that guy played with. And then all of a sudden it's, well, maybe we need another this, maybe we need another that, maybe we need another this, maybe we need another that. That's not the answer. The answer is to eliminate bad football, play better football all the way across the board as a football team. And so that's what we're really going to push for this week.
Will it take from facing such an athletic front seven in Oregon and carrying that over for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I was really impressed. I think it's the last 2 weeks. I think if you look at Wyoming, I thought they were a high effort defensive line, defensive front. We knew they would be. I thought we did a much better job being away from the ball, of sustaining our blocks. There were bigger runs, both by the quarterback and the running back, because of that. And then I think, whenever you play a quality opponent like Oregon, you really understand, like, okay, this is maybe the best at this position we're going to face. I know there's some really tough fronts in our conference that we're going to face, but that was one of the best teams, overall teams that we'll face all year long. And so you grow off of that. Here's what we did well. We need to do more of that. That was one of the messages to the coaches yesterday. And then what we have to improve okay, well, understand that you just were facing a guy that's going to play in the NFL either this year or in a couple years. And, here's the things that you did well and how you could do things better. I think, there's some confidence. I thought Caleb Rogers played his best game as a Red Raider. I thought that, I talked to him this morning. He said, Coach, I hate losing, but it's the most fun I've ever had playing football in that game. He said the environment was incredible. We were playing a great opponent. And I was really happy with how hard he strained through that game. And so it's fun to see his improvement. That one long run that Taj had off of our dart scheme, man, he's leading in front. He ends up having a big block on a safety, and Taj gets probably another 10 yards off of that. And that's one thing he does. He's so athletic. And so, we just got to build off of that. It's hard to have confidence in a loss, especially whenever you have so many inflicted wounds, self-inflicted wounds. But there are some really good things on tape that we can build off of.
Coach, how do you grade your own performance after 15 games as a Power 5 head coach? And what's the biggest challenge this week from Tarleton?
I'm not happy with my own performance because, again, I said it last year, even go 8-5. Y'all have heard me say it before. I failed. I came in here to win a Big 12 championship, and I'm not. I don't believe in average. I don't believe in, taking a consolation prize or a maybe it's even a win or a loss. If it's a loss, man, we played really good against this ranked team or whatever. I don't believe in any of that. You either win or lose, and my job is to win. And so I've got to be much better to put ourselves in position to win games, especially close games. I saw, watching the TV copy, I saw a stat last year we were 4-0 in one-score games, and right now we're 0-2. We're 10 points away from being 2-0, and those 10 points are all bad football. It's bad football. That's why you lose games. The games that we're losing, it's we have to correct the football because it's not a lack of talent. I thought our effort was absolutely incredible. It's we as a collective whole are making too many mistakes, too many missed assignments. We just got to be better as a whole.
And what positives are you seeing from Ben and Charles, and what do you still want them to work on?
Ben Roberts. Yeah, Ben, man, the positive is Friday night we had a meeting. I had a meeting with Ben, Rabbit, Lux, Braylon Lux, and Joseph Plunk. And Rabbit looks at him and he says, man, I'm so excited for you. You're starting your first college game. I'm so excited for you. And you could see this wide-eyed young guy, nervous. And Lux turns to him and he goes, hey, bro, don't make it more than it is. It's still football. You've been playing it all your life. We've got your back. Just go out and play. And I thought that he did that. I thought for the most part, there's some things that we could do better with his alignment. One of the very first plays, he's a little bit too wide, so it changes his angle coming in to the running back, and he doesn't make the tackle. But I thought he settled down the rest of the game, and man, the kid has a high ceiling. He's very athletic. He's got a high football IQ, and I think he showed that with the way he played. The second one, Charles Esters. I was proud of Charles because the one thing I challenged him during the week, because we knew we were going to get to play him a little bit more, is his physicality. He's very strong. He had a great summer. And, sometimes he uses his athleticism more than his physical strength. And, at that position, you want to be physically strong at the point of attack. And I thought he did a really good job as the game went on. I'm excited, to kind of see the growth in that room. I think you're going to start seeing some guys start appear. I don't know how much, and I don't want to overstep, but I think you're going to see a Dylan Spencer start making an impact in that room. I think that's going to help because now I think that allows us to play Joseph Adedire at F and B, which we did the other night. It's going to free us up to do more things with Steve Linton, and that's a thing that we have to grow because we lose Isaac. You know, when you lose somebody like that, you have the depth in that room to get the snaps. You just got to be more creative with the snaps and the people that are out there.
Coach, last week you spoke about your interior O linemen kind of struggling. What did you think of their performance? And I was also curious about Monroe.
Yeah, much better than week one. You know, my challenge to Rusty right now, Rusty and Cole, is being in better body position. There's times that they're playing too high, and it's not necessarily in their run blocking, it's their pass blocking. You know, that they've got to have more bend. I think that's going to give them a better base. You know, they're big men, but they're also playing big men. That nose guard from Oregon was really special, number 55. I think he's number 55. And so I think that's putting yourself in better position to be more physical in the pass blocking. A lot of people don't think that pass blocking is physical. It's more passive. But I think you've got to put yourself in better position. And so really challenged with that. I thought Monroe played great week one, and he had some struggles week two. A lot of that was body position. A lot of that, to me, understanding where you're at, where the play's going, and having better feet coming off the football. I think he had some good plays, but some of the plays that he didn't have really stuck out on, you go back and you ask questions like with Tyler, and they're great questions. That's a great question with Monroe, because some of the things that affected Tyler were, Monroe could do a better job, and he will. He's a guy that's he's very hard on himself, and will come back and be much better tomorrow to be much better on Saturday.
Jordan in the secondary played a lot of star. How would you think he did, and are you getting C.J. Baskerville back this weekend?
Man, I'm glad you asked that question. Yeah, C.J. will be back. I think we'll probably split those two just to continue to we'll see how C.J. feels, but he'll be back. He'll practice tomorrow. I was proud of Brendan. BJ made a big tackle on the tight end on their sideline. The thing that we've got to continue, one of our point of emphasis is supporting the football from the secondary position. I think it's two things. I think it's number one, not getting stuck on blocks. He got stuck on some blocks. He's got to be more aggressive. He's got to set the edge. He's got to trigger faster. You saw CJ do that, just being an older player. But then I think Tyler and Rabbit have to understand that they got to make him right. They're coming from a different level, and so they have the opportunity to make him right. And their fits, like if you draw it up or if you're out there and it fits perfect, then that's all fine and good. But sometimes when it doesn't fit perfect, the safeties, the higher safeties, have to make that star correct. And so we've got to do a better job at that. That's one of the things going in tomorrow, some of the different drills or some of the drills that we've been doing that we're going to, up the intensity. Some of the different drills that we're going to add are, just the fit drills of Rabbit and Tyler making some of those guys right.
Coach, we saw a lot of Blake Burris instead of Duda Banks, and I'm not seeing him on the depth chart anymore. Is there something going on with him?
Duda, hopefully he's back this week. He had after the Wyoming game, he tweaked his back, being a 300-pound guy. I don't think anybody's in here 300 pounds, but we do have a tall guy over here. It's tough whenever you have any issues with your back. It's already tough with anybody, but if you're 6'5", 300 pounds, it all of a sudden changes a lot. We were cautious with him. We're hoping that we get him back this week. It's nothing that, I don't think will keep him out more than if it is one more game. I was really sent a message last night to Blake after watching the TV copy, just telling him how proud I was of him, because he had a good spring. He had a really good camp. Didn't get to play very much against Wyoming, and man, I thought he played really well. Another guy after grading the film that I thought played, he had his best week of practice. That usually translates to good games. Is Quincy Ledet. Quincy Ledet had a very good game against Oregon, and it's the most reps that we've been able to play a number 2 defensive tackle in a game since I've been here, which is very encouraging because that was the struggle last year, that we didn't have the depth that we needed behind Boog and Tony to get them to have some better reps in the fourth quarter. And so Quincy and Blake getting Duda back. Man, it's crazy. We're expecting to play Trey McAlpin, and he rolled his ankle in pregame, and so it's just kind of one of those deals right now that you got to fight through. We're having some of that, and, no excuses. Whoever's up and whoever's got to play has got to go out there and play well for us to win games.
Coach, you talk about that high-powered offense from Tarleton State. That's a team that's scored 50-plus points in their first 2 games. What have you been doing in practice so far, and what are kind of the conversations been with the team to just kind of prepare for that high-powered offense?
Yeah, they've done a good job. They're going to be, like, if you look at the past of their offense coordinator, he's a Mike Leach guy. If you go back to Coach Witten, he GA'd here, I think, in 88 and 89, at Texas Tech. So you're going to get, a lot of spread. They'll have a tight end in the game, but more spread, really wide splits that you would see at Baylor back with Coach Browse. The quarterback can really throw the football. Got 2 good running backs. The challenge for us, I think, that we continue to talk about is don't give up the big play, get the ball down, make them drive the football. It's amazing. We saw something on Saturday that hardly ever happens in football at any level. I think we had a 17-play drive, and they had a 17-play drive, and that usually does not happen. And so didn't like the way the drive ended for them. It ended with points on the board, but it's one of our big deals is make people drive, try to eliminate explosive plays and make people drive the football. So we're going to have to do that on Saturday.
You guys have had trouble finishing games over the first couple of weeks of the season. What have you seen that's been the cause of that, and how do you plan to address it next week and going forward?
And I hate to, keep kind of beating the same drum, but it's bad football. We have to eliminate bad football. We have to eliminate, one of our deals, and when I say this, it says the player coach's oath. So it's the coaches also. It starts with them. I will know and do my job. You can't make choices. Like you can't, like if the defense says that you got to take the running back, you got to take the running back. If the defense says that your other linebacker is going to take the running back and we're running a blitz and the defense says replace the running back that took the running back, then you got to replace that guy blitzing, and that's with us too, with the coaches. You can't make choices on, if it's who's in the game in critical situations. It better be our best. And so I think as a whole, you look at the end of the games and we're not playing our best football. And that's what's important. Like whenever it is a crucial situation, the teams in close games that win make plays. And usually they make plays because they're doing their job. And so we've got to make plays. We've got to have good calls. We've got to have calls that we have reps invested in. There's no magic call that's going to all of a sudden win a game. It's what you've done over and over and over that the players feel confident in. We got to make those calls. We got to execute those calls to win football games. And if you go back to that one, against Oregon and against Wyoming, we're not doing that enough to win the game.
You guys were able to run the ball well against Oregon. Do you, in hindsight, wish that Taj maybe got a couple more carries, averaging 11 yards per carry there, and over 6 so far this season with just 17 touches?
Yeah, 100%. That's a great question. The one thing that we have got to me in this offense, and I absolutely love this offense, man. I am probably the biggest believer I know it's Zach's offense, but I think I'm a bigger believer in the offense than he is. You know, I absolutely love this offense. But the one thing that I think every game is different. You got to understand the game. And the one thing that we've talked about is whenever it gets kind of like there's a frantic part of every game. Like you can feel it. If you're down there on the sideline, you can kind of feel this, whether it's nervousness or something bad's happened. If you can find a run that you believe in, that calms the game down. It also can, whenever a defense is reeling, whenever a defense is having that, it puts a lot of pressure on them. And I felt like there were times that definitely we've got to have that feeling. We've talked about that. We've got to, you know, it's kind of like when you're in a room, it's like, hey, read the room. You kind of have to read that part of the game too. And, you know, I think there was some opportunities there that we've got to take advantage of. Man, I'm proud of Taj, man. He's doing a great job, ran the ball well. I think the more and more you're about to see Nehemiah a lot more, not necessarily all at running back, but there. Been really proud of Xavier White, man. He's made some big plays. Had an opportunity to have a big run the other night, and we just didn't fit it right. So I definitely think that, you know, we do have to run the ball more, but I also think you've got to understand just saying, hey, let's run the ball more. This offense, the one thing that I do love about it is we're just not going to bang our head into bad boxes. Like, oh, we got to run the ball. Well, they got 8 and 9 people. Now, they didn't. But I'm saying when you say that, I mean, everybody, I think, can count, you know, and so count the box. You don't got enough in there, so that's not going to be a good run against quality people. That wasn't happening. I'm not saying that. I'm agreeing with you 100% that you got to go back and I thought we had a really good run scheme, and we should have ran the ball more.
Kind of touching back on turnovers, heading into this week, you're probably emphasizing that maybe more than ever. You got Tarleton State coming up next, who recently coming off of forcing 5 turnovers in their last game. I guess what have you kind of seen from that defense so far and really trying to limit those this week?
Yeah, you know, you go back and you look at the turnovers, and I think there were 2 really bad turnovers, really bad turnovers in the game. You know, I put it on the plan to win because it was a turnover, but the turnover where you throw a Hail Mary, you know, we don't take it out, but I was asked, hey, do we want to take this out? I was like, no, we're, you know, a -4 in the game, so put it up there. We got to understand we got to be better, but you know, I think it starts with us of having a better plan. We got to protect our quarterback. Got to know when we need to throw it away. We've got to define routes better. And then, you know, anytime you turn the ball over in a fumble, you've got to, you know, do a better job of securing the football. The disappointing thing, as much as the turnovers to me, being a defensive coach, is the lack of turnovers by our defense. You know, it has not been, even though we had one the other night that was not called in the game that should have been, especially after watching it again. It's just frustrating that we're not balancing that out, you know, that we're not taking the ball away. And so that has to be even more of an emphasis, you know, in practice of taking the ball away. And that starts with having good eyes, being where you're supposed to be, populating the football, you know, because usually whenever you cause a turnover in the run game, it's because you have 2 or 3 people there, you know, putting your hat or hand on the football. And so just as much as frustration of, you know, us turning the ball over is, for me, is not creating turnovers.
Not only for the coaching staff, but also just for the confidence and the momentum moving forward. I guess how crucial is not only to win this home game, but be able to come out and play a clean style of football for all 4 quarters heading into Big 12 play next week?
Yeah, the biggest thing is to get the win. You know, our guys are really straining. I think they're giving great effort. You know, whenever you win, that's kind of like the reward. You can take a deep breath. So I definitely think, you know, it's extremely important to go win this game. I think it's important, even more important, because we're playing at home. in front of our fans, and they deserve it, you know. And so I think it's really important. Talked to my buddy last night. You know, there's you know, he's kind of in the same situation we are, and we were just kind of talking through it, and it just goes back to playing a clean football game, you know, and we definitely need to do that. You know, we need to build on that because, you know, that this is the last dress rehearsal until, you know, college is a little bit different than the NFL and the pros where you're trying to do everything to get in the playoffs. You know, college, every game really counts, you know, to where you're going to end up at the end of the year. But at the end of the day, we got to get ready for Big 12 play because, you know, the goal's still in front of you. Everybody in the Big 12, the goal's in front of them of who's going to be playing in AT&T in December. And so it's very important that we play a clean game.
Coach, could you give us a little bit of the math on the analytics of whether it's going forward on 4th and 2 from your own 33 or the 2-point conversion, just beyond just that it's analytics?
Well, it's hard to go beyond just analytics because it is analytics. Like, it's a numbers game, and anything after that is a guess. So there's a couple things. 4th and 2, the percentage of us making that was high. And what you're thinking about that, so we're up right there. So you have the opportunity to possibly end the game going down and scoring and having the time that they're going to have to come back. You definitely have the opportunity to shorten the game if you don't score right there. It goes to the percentage, again, of us making it. There's 12-something, you know, like you can say, okay, well, let's punt the ball right there. All right, well, it's not like we'd shut them out up till that point. And so there is still a high possibility that they score a touchdown or a field goal. They scored a field goal. We went down and we kicked the field goal to go back up, you know. And so you go by the number that this is the percentage to get that first down, to continue that drive, to go win the football game. Now, if you're down, so if I go back to North Carolina State, you're down by 2 scores. Here's the number. So it's like 13, almost 14 minutes. The numbers say that you're not going to have enough possessions being down by 14 points to win that game. Now, sometimes you do get an extra possession, sometimes you don't, but just the numbers say that. In the 2-point conversion, it was a coach's decision in that situation, meaning that they recommended, the book recommended. Whenever we talked, I said, do we have a good 2-point play? Yes, we have a good 2-point play. All right, then let's go get the 2 points. For me, the frustration comes from their 2-point play. And us giving up a gate play is extremely frustrating as a coach because that's all coaching. All coaching. 100%. And so that's frustrating. Like, you know, it's always interesting to me, and trust me, I'm a fan, right? Like, I have teams that I'm fans of, and so I'm just like y'all in this room, right? Like, if I'm sitting there watching the Cowboys and they do something, I'm like, golly, why would you do that? Like, stuff like that. Like, I get that stuff, right? But I also want to, like, let's criticize, and man, I'm going to be the first person, I just said it, to be the most critical person for me is not the 2-point conversion that we did not get, but the 2-point conversion that we gave up. That's what we should be talking about. The bad alignment, the lack of not changing out the personnel. Like if we were going to look at like plays, let's really dig into the game and talk about that, you know, which is like, I appreciate the question because it's a great question, you know, because that's the one thing when I talk to commentators that I think they're starting to get is you just can't like criticize because they have it parts like the last 2 games that we've had. I thought those commentators, whether they agreed with it or not, they studied the numbers, right? And so they can say, hey, this is why he's doing that. Then you have some commentators that just refuse to look at any of that, and they just want to say, oh, he should be punting here, oh, he should be doing that, right? I get that too. That's what they do. That's their job. But I think it's important to look at those numbers and say, okay, why are we doing this? One, when we went for it on 4th and 2, we felt like we had a good play, didn't block it up, got beat at the point of attack. You know, we gave the ball back to them. They kicked the field goal. Whenever you're also looking at that, if that would have been 4th and 2, we're up by 1 and there was only 3 minutes left, I'm punting the football. Everything changes. It's all based on the percentages, the time in the game. If it is a weather game, it's based on the weather. So it's more than just like open a book, say, it says to do this, right? Like I have to show it to you sometime or after. That'd be a great article to like really see it. We could kind of mock one up of maybe not us versus somewhere else, but I could get them to send me something. Because it is that book's like this, and it's going through, as the game goes, everything changes. Because if we would have scored that touchdown in the first quarter, it would have said, don't go for 2. If we would have scored that touchdown late in the second quarter, it would have said, go for 2. At that point in the game, it was coach's recommendation. That was my call. I thought we had I have a lot to say about that play now, but again, that would probably get me fined. It makes you appreciate the conference that we play in, being in games like that. You can do your research on who called that game off of that comment. That's a really good question, man.
Joy, going back to something you said a moment ago when Collier was asking you about Taj, you said, let me try to find
No,
it.
you're good.
Because I typed what you said.
Collier doesn't remember. He'd help you.
You said if you can find a run that you believe in, that calms the game down.
Yeah.
And when the defense is having that, it puts a lot of pressure on them. Were you suggesting there that the run that you believed in was the success that Tyler was having running the football is part of the reason Taj didn't get as many carries?
It was a mixture because they both were the same run. Like with Taj or with going back, we ran some quarterback draw. That was his biggest, or like a lead draw with him. We also ran some quarterback counter. And that was one of the things we were having success on with Taj. You know, we were running some counter. That's, counter and power are our two biggest plays that we run that we think we're really good at. We ran some dart. Again, all those are gap schemes. All 3 of those are gap schemes. And so that's something that we have ran well. And Taj, you could tell he was feeling it. And you got to go back too. I mean, I'm glad both of y'all are asking me this question because that's another thing too. As a coach, you've got to understand that your back or quarterback is filling the run game. And, we rushed for 174 yards and probably should have rushed for 250. The one thing I do like about this offense is that you can get out of a bad run. Sometimes I think we have to make sure that it might not be a great run, but a good run is better than maybe getting into not giving the ball to a hot running back.
And following up, a few player availability questions. So you mentioned Joseph. He's okay after whatever he had.
Yeah, shoulder. It was just shoulder. He dove to try to get to Bo, and he hurt his shoulder, but he's good. He did everything yesterday. We might hold him tomorrow, but he'll be back practicing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Won't know that until Mike, works with him even more. But the one thing that we have talked about was, we've got to take care of our guys, but we're in a situation that if they can play, they need to play. We need to wait till the next week. Like, this is not the time to say, hey, we can hold somebody out. We've got to go play with everybody that can play because we need the reps. We need guys to play better football.
And what exactly is wrong with Dennis? What does Dennis have?
He ended up having a concussion. We thought that, but every concussion's not, but it was, you know, you've got some that definitely it lingers, and then you have some that you feel like if you have it on Sunday, if you don't have symptoms on, I mean, if you have it on Saturday, you don't have symptoms on Sunday, you don't have symptoms on Monday, you've got enough time to get back. We felt like we could get him back. He was on the sideline. We just didn't have enough days of contact with him to where we could release him. He practiced yesterday, and so he'll be back this week.
And with Nehemiah and Xavier getting a few plays in the backfield the other night, was Cameron out?
No, he wasn't out. He'd kind of banged up his shoulder, but he could. But those two guys, with some of the stuff that we're trying to do with moving them at receiver and then also motion them to the backfield, I definitely, now it's on film, so it's no like surprise for anybody, but you're going to see that a lot more. You know, those two guys being able to play receiver and running back and the rush skills that they have are going to help. You know, Cameron will definitely be going, but it's kind of a mixture. Taj was playing really well. The other thing is Taj does such a good job in blitz pickup, and man, you know, they were bringing people from a lot of different, you know, areas, and so we needed the running back to be able to help out in pass protection. Taj is literally the best back that I've ever been around in pass protection. He's very physical. He has a great feel for it, really good vision, and so he got more of that, and then we were using those two guys the way we used them.
And can you just kind of break down the partial block punt that Jaden York?
Yeah, man, that was a great play, man. I was, you know, frustrating there because that was could have been a huge turning point in the game. Man, our crowd, it was awesome. Our crowd reacted, and man, Jones AT&T was rocking at that point, and I thought Kenny, Coach Perry, did a great job of, scheming that up. York got his hand on it, man, but the way he did it, you know, most players don't understand you got to take it off the foot, so they want to jump up. And as he's jumping up, you start seeing him really reach off the foot to get the block. And so it was a called block. You know, we were coming after it. He did a good job. I do think, you know, whenever it comes to our kickoff team, our return team, both return teams, and our punt team, we are significantly better than we were last year on special teams. And I credit that to the players that we have. I think we're going to continue to get better because we're going to start using some different guys too in some different areas. But, you know, I think Coach Perry's done a good job as far as scheming some really good stuff up.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
All right. Thank y'all very much. Y'all.
Here at 1:15, so no.
We'll start with Sean Dillon and then go to Jarrett. We try to roll through this.
Coach, what positives did you see from Ben Roberts and Charles Estes, and what do you still want them to work on?
I was really happy with the way Ben played. You know, you're talking about a guy first time getting a lot of significant snaps against a really explosive, highly talented offense. And I think at first, you know, things were really, really fast. But the great thing in seeing him play as he went through the game is the game seemed to slow down for him. And it was really productive, did a really nice job communicating. And it kind of, you know, confirmed in our mind why we think so highly of him. And I think he's going to continue to get better and better. Coach Bookbinder does a great job developing linebackers, and was really happy with how he played. Charles had been showing some things. If you'd asked me a year ago spring when we first got here, I didn't think he would have developed this quickly, to be frank. But Coach Ayu's done a great job getting him ready. He's done a really nice job in the weight room, changing his body. He's a guy who's a really smart football player, so we can put him in different positions and he picks things up. Both those guys, they just got to continue to be more productive, play a little bit faster. As you play more reps, the game tends to slow down for you. You see formations and you can anticipate things better and just play cleaner. Early on, Charles had a situation where he didn't line up properly to one of their runs, and it got out on us. And then the same run, the same formation came back. He lined up properly and ends up being a negative yardage play. So, he's a smart guy that we can coach him on the sideline, make the adjustments, and get it corrected during the game.
Do you feel like the turnovers and sacks are eventually going to happen because the players are starting to get into those right positions?
Yeah, I mean, we've got to do a much better job drilling our guys on taking the ball away. And sack-wise, we got to continue to do a better job of our pass rush lanes to keep the quarterback in the pocket. When that breaks down, especially when you have mobile quarterbacks, they're going to, make you pay for it. And we've got to do a better job of, holding that pocket. And, if we coach them up better, I anticipate those numbers to go up.
Hey, Coach, can you talk about Miles Cole and Steve Litton and what they've done so far? I think a lot was expected from both of them coming into the season. And in terms of statistics, anyways, we haven't seen a lot of production from them so far.
Well, that's our challenge to both of them. Both of them, we believe, have a lot of talent. They're playing well within the scheme, but they're not productive enough. And in our defense, our edges, our star, those players have to make a lot of plays for us to be as good as we should be on defense. And I think both those guys are probably a little bit disappointed in their production. It's something we work on every week in their fundamentals of get off, pass rush, counters, things where they can make plays. And we anticipate that, with more reps, they'll get better at that. But right now, we've got to get better.
With Rabbit, a lot of tackles the other night. Seems like he's really stepped up with physicality and being a sure tackler. What's your assessment of his performance?
I think you hit the nail on the head. Rabbit, since the offseason, has become a really big leader for our secondary and our defense as a whole. He's taken his playmaking ability, I think, to a different level. He's playing as fast as he's played in a long time. He's a guy that the game has slowed down for him, so he understands where he needs to fit. He's not 100%. None of our players are. Me as a coach, I'm not 100%. But he's playing at a very high level, and he's been a really sure tackler for the most part. I think he had one the other day that he missed, but he's doing a really nice job of, when things are not perfectly clean, still being able to get a runner down.
Coach, we saw a bit of Brendan Jordan at star and Jordan Sanford at boundary safety. Just what was your assessment on those two?
They're both true freshmen that are learning, the defense. I think in a lot of ways, like Ben, it was really fast for him. We've got to do a much better job with Brendan on teaching him how important it is to set an edge. He didn't do a very good job of that. I thought in his man coverage, though, he did a really nice job. Jordan had to go there at the end when T.O. got dinged up, and he communicated well. He covered well. I don't know that he got a bunch of plays on the stat sheet, but I was happy with how he performed. Sometimes you get a freshman out there and that kind of an environment in a crunch time situation, you worry about bust, and he's a smart football player and did what we asked him to do. We're not going to miss you.
Hey, Coach, what differences did you make between the first and the second half defensively that helped slow down Oregon in terms of that?
I don't know that we did a whole lot of things differently. We lined up the right way, and we set better edges, and guys understood it a little better and fit things better. That's a highly talented offense, and they're going to make their plays. We didn't let them throw the ball over our head in the second half. We forced them to throw it underneath, which you should have an advantage there. But the couple times they did have big plays, we let the quarterback out of the pocket, or they threw it underneath and we missed tackles. And so we've got to do a better job. Two big things is our pass rush lanes have to be better to keep the quarterback in the pocket, and then when the ball's out on the perimeter it's fundamental football. You got to have somebody, you know, set an edge and turn the ball back in, and someone's got to track into your hip. And when you don't do that, big plays can happen.
Coach, this last week, Tarleton State, one of the receivers, Keelan Johnson, went for 219 yards and 4 touchdowns. What was your assessment of his game, and what do you think your secondary needs to do to prepare for him?
Really explosive player. I mean, we're playing a team this week. You'd love, after the first 2 weeks of having really tough games for us, that you'd like to have a drop-off, but you're playing against an offense that's averaging over 500 yards. They're an air raid offense. Their run game's a little bit different. But they are committed to run the football. They're running it for almost 200 yards a game, and then they're throwing it for 3 1/4. So puts a lot of stress on your defense. And you look at them the first couple of games, there's teams maybe trying to take away their run, and they're throwing it over the top of them. Just about every running play they have on normal down and distance situations, they tag it with an RPO throw. So on the outside, they had some vertical shots that they hit. And even when you don't, if you're forcing with the safeties and you're leaving the middle of the field open, they've got players that can take it and go to the house, and certainly he did. And he's not the only receiver that they've got. Number 10 does a really good job in the slot. They've got another guy who's got about 6 catches, was a first-team WAC all-conference performer a year ago. And they've got a 6'6" receiver that they throw jump balls to. So they provide a variety of challenges for us.
Last week for y'all, that was the first time you've had only 1 sack in a game since last October. What's your game plan coming into Tarleton State? What's your message to your team?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. We've got to do a better job of putting pressure on quarterbacks and getting sacks. We've played a pretty talented offensive line. You got to give them credit as well. That's an offensive line that a year ago, I think it was game 11, that they gave up their first sack. So it's combination of both those things. I anticipate that our guys, as we continue to drill it, we'll do a much better job.
Tim, following up on Stephen Linton for a moment, some folks have asked, it seems like maybe a quarter of the time or whatever you see him dropping out in coverage. What dictates when he's dropping in coverage versus when he's rushing?
Essentially the call. When we game plan different people, our edge guys, we can either be in a 3-man rush or a 4-man rush, and we might be in a simulated pressure where if we're bringing it from the field, he may drop. We're going to move him around to different positions. He's athletic enough that he can play in space. Not every defensive end can. I think he affects the game more when he rushes, but when I had Von Miller at Texas A&M, Coach Sherman said, make sure we're rushing him more, and we did. We would find ways for him to do it. But we won the game against Texas with him dropping into coverage and getting an interception. So you got to be conscious of where he's at on the field when we're putting these calls in to make sure that he is rushing more. But I think it helps us when he can also drop.
And the other night, after you had the lead, you gave up a couple of long drives, 17-play drive that they had 4 third-down conversions, and then a 10-play drive, I think, to the last field goal. Was there anything in particular that you're especially frustrated with with those series?
The 17-play drive, you mentioned the conversions. I think one was with the quarterback's feet, and then we're playing man-to-man coverage on third down, and their receivers and quarterback threw it in a good spot and made plays. We got to continue to mix things up and have guys execute the defense to get off the field. On that last series, I think it was aided in large part. We had a 15-yard penalty on their sideline. I understand why the official called it, but I think he kind of tripped and fell as he went out of bounds. Those things are unfortunate. That continued that drive to get into the red zone. I was pleased with the times they got in the red zone. We got a stop on downs, I think, one time and held them to 3 field goals, which obviously the last 2 drives you don't want that to happen, but when you're considering we got 3 freshmen out there, for them to at least do that, I was pleased with that part of it. But we got to do a better job on third down.
Coach, after reviewing the film, do you feel like it's necessary to pull back the opportunities for Tyler to check out of plays or into a run, or do you feel like it's more necessary to put him into better situations where he has opportunities to hand the ball off to Taj, et cetera?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think when you actually go back and look at it, Tyler made some great checks throughout the game. I mean, he had a couple big run checks there where Taj actually took off and made some big gains, and he did check out of a few runs as well into some pass plays. But you know, the big run that we had down our sideline for 30-plus yards, that was a call by Tyler. We had another big one that was called by Tyler down the opposing sideline. We got a holding penalty on. So that's one of Tyler's strengths, and so you never want to take a strength away from a player. Again, he's one of the smartest guys I've been around. He understands run boxes, understands the count, understands the front. So he's going to be able to get us in a good run, so that's definitely not something I want to take away from him.
So what are the positives that you get to see in practice that many people don't, that show up on game day, that makes Tyler the easy choice to lead this team?
Yeah, I mean, again, I know it's tough at the quarterback position, and everybody wants to always put the blame on the quarterback no matter how it goes, you know, after you lose. And, you know, there's probably about a handful of plays that he wants back. But, I mean, ultimately, in my opinion, when you go back and you look at Tyler played a heck of a football game. Again, kind of one of those deals where he put the team on his back, man. Yeah, do you want the turnover down there, the fumble? No. Do you want the interception late? No. But a couple of those other things, again, I think you got to look at the entirety of the play and understand some of those things. But, man, I mean, again, he's a leader of this football team. He understands football. He understands defenses. Is he playing perfect right now? No, but he's playing good football. And so there's no question in my mind that he's the guy for this team right now, and he's the leader of this team.
Reviewing the film, who are some of the players that may not be seeing the growth that you're seeing them after looking at the film?
I mean, that's hard to say. I mean, again, you're talking 2 games. I mean, I think our interior offensive line can play better. You know, I thought, again, our tackles played really well in game 1, and I thought Caleb Rogers had another really good game here with Monroe kind of coming in. Monroe struggled a little bit, had a few penalties there and some of those things. But again, I mean, I think our guys are doing their job for the most part. You know, we had a couple drop balls that are uncharacteristic of our receivers. I thought the tight ends played really well. Running backs played really well too. I thought as a whole, those guys all played pretty well.
We'll go to Justin and Nathan and Jeff.
Coach, you kind of just touched on it, but were Rusty's snaps better than they were last week, and how do you think of Cole?
Yeah, no, they were tremendously better. Those guys played better, and again, I think you're seeing this week we saw a little bit of a different opponent. You know, they have some NFL draft picks on that defensive line, and they gave us some fits at times. And then at times, I thought we did a really good job handling those guys too. So just a little bit more consistency out of both of those guys. But the snaps overall were a lot better, and Rusty and Cole as a whole played better as well. But again, there's still a lot of room for improvement for those guys this week.
Personally, I haven't really looked at Tarleton State yet, but what are you seeing from them, and what kind of challenges do they prove to you guys this week?
Yeah, I mean, they're a really good football team, man. Coach really well, kind of another blue-collar type group, very multiple on defense. You know, their first 2 games this year, they played a little bit more man coverage, doing a really good job getting after the quarterback, creating chaos, creating turnovers. You know, I know they've got 2 defensive touchdowns their first couple games. Very multiple in the fronts. Again, a lot of blitzers, a lot of twisters. But then you kind of can revert back to last year though a little bit, and they played a little bit more zone coverage last season, and maybe not as much chaos in the box, if you will, with the twists and some of the blitzes and some of that. So again, we got to prepare for a little bit of everything, and it kind of seems like that's kind of the tail of the tape these last few weeks. We got to be prepared for everything that they're going to give us, because again, they're a good football team. They fly around, they're coached really well, and they're going to be multiple and give us a bunch of different looks.
Mason Tharp and the tight ends got the ball more, used the quarterback runs, of course, 58-yarder leading that. But looking back, do you think you could have used Taj and Cameron more, or do you think that's just kind of how the game ended up going?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of how it ended up going. I mean, clearly, you know, when Taj touched the ball, we saw what Taj did when he touched the ball. I love Taj. It's not that I don't want to get Taj the ball. we kind of went into it with that mindset that we were going to try to be aggressive through the air a little bit, and we knew Taj was going to touch the ball out of the backfield some, with some catches and some of those things. And again, we had some run calls that we got into some different plays in, and that's kind of just how the game goes as well. But again, I'm not a guy that's going to go in and say, hey, I got to have X amount of runs, X amount of this. The quarterback can only run X amount of times. The running back needs to carry this amount of times. Again, because when you look at it, I know the number for carries for Shuck was pretty high, but when you look back at it, I don't know the exact number. I want to say it was like 7 or 8 of them were scrambles. I had about 7 quarterback called runs, and then he had some RPO type situations where he took off and kind of called his own number, and that's just kind of how the game goes sometimes. So, but again, love those guys. They're all doing a really good job, and again, it's going to be week by week. I'm not gonna force the run into bad boxes. And again, if a team's running certain fronts, we're not going to run certain runs into it, and we're going to be aggressive through the air.
Do you worry because of the injuries Shuck has had? Do you worry about running them that much at times?
To be honest with you, no, I don't. Again, I mean, football is a contact sport, I mean, do I want to run him? Do I want him to look up in the box score and see 23 rushes? No, I don't. But at the end of the day, again, we ran him, and especially the called runs that we had, he did a phenomenal job. A lot of them were on third downs and a couple of red zone scenarios, and he did a really good job. He's a great runner. I've stated that before. He clocked over 20 mile an hour again on the GPS, and he's a physical guy that wants to run. So, but as far as the injuries go, no, I'm not really concerned. Again, if hopefully that doesn't happen, but that's kind of how football goes.
Coach, before this season, one of the attributes that Tyler really demonstrated was being able to take care of the football.
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing him do this season that is counterintuitive to what he was doing before to cause some of these turnovers?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at it, we had one. You go back to week 1, we had an average route and a bad thrown ball. So there's a combination of 2 things there. You look at the fumble was just one of those plays where, again, we're not on the same page with the receiver on a route, and so we pull the ball in the RPO, and at that point he just needs to get down and realize and just eat that play and take the sack probably in that scenario, and I know he wants that play back. And then the Hail Mary kind of is what it is. The other ball, again, we have 2 guys in the same window, and we're trying to throw the ball to Jordan Brown on an open route, and we've got JB sitting in the window right there, so the ball ends up just falling right into the corner's lap. And then again on the other one, just kind of a weird play where he's getting hit and throws the ball, and the defensive lineman just ends up being there. So again, there's no excuse for turnovers, and that's the number one thing that we're focused on right now. But again, I mean, I think he's playing good football. If he wasn't playing good football, then I think we'd be having a different conversation. Clearly, he knows he's got to protect the football, and we're going to continue to work on that each week. But I think the ball's just kind of not bounced our way so far.
As a play caller, do you prioritize more outside of the hash mark plays as opposed to the middle of the field, or is it just kind of random how it looks at times?
I think it's just random. Again, we had a lot of crossing patterns in the game plan the other day, and they were dropping defensive linemen in some of those windows and some of those things. So again, every week we're going to go into it saying, how can we attack a defense? If it's across the middle, great. If it's outbreakers, great. Again, we had some deep over routes that end up being the over route that just ends up being outside the hash. We had some explosive plays on. It just kind of depends on the timing of when those guys get open. We're going to throw those footballs.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned on several occasions you give your quarterbacks a lot of freedom at the line of scrimmage, and especially Tyler. Just ballpark, on average, how much do you think he changes out of the original play that's called?
I don't know, ballpark maybe 10 to 15%. Yeah, 10 to 15%.
All right, and then how many plays do you script, or how many series do you script to start a game and or half?
I script the first play of the game, and that's it.
That's it.
And then I'm saying I don't say like, hey, here's play 1 no matter what. No matter what happens on first down, I'm going to call the second play. Just because I don't believe in that, because you never know what's going to happen on first down. You get sacked and be in 2nd and 18. Well, what if 2nd and 18's a play that's not a 2nd and 18 play? So I script the first play of the game, and then after that, it's all based off of feel.
Have you always done that since you've been offensive coordinator?
Yes.
Zach, Coach Cochran has talked before about he doesn't measure the production of his tight ends through passing yards and things like that because of their value in the run game. But it looked like Saturday there was a little bit more emphasis getting them involved in the passing game. Is that something we can expect to see more of going forward?
Yeah, again, I mean, those guys are always a priority in our passing concepts. This week it just so happened to go to them a little bit. We had a couple schematic plays there, like the touchdown that Mason had in the red zone. We wanted to put him out there one-on-one against a smaller DB. And then, again, we had a couple of those deep crossing over patterns that we caught by him. And, the stick route we caught there in the red zone where he just kind of barrels forward and gets you an extra 5 or 6 yards. But, those guys are mismatches and love to get them the football. Again, we got to get those guys open and have them in our progressions in the right time and quarterback to be on time and on target with those guys.
All right, that will end it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank y'all.